Since the legalization of recreational cannabis in Colorado in 2012, the price of pot has continued to decline. In 2016 alone, the average asking price for a pound of marijuana dropped by 38% in the recreational market. Cultivators are now increasingly turning to sustainable methods in cannabis production to keep their operating costs low.
So more and more commercial cultivators are moving towards greenhouses because the price of cannabis is dropping. Where prices used to be maybe at $4,400 a pound, they're now at $1,200 to $1,400 a pound. If you have the most costs compared to anyone else in your state, in the industry, and prices drop, you're in trouble.
But cultivators must still follow the legal guidelines set by the State Medical Enforcement Division when implementing sustainable practices. The core principle affecting cannabis waste disposal is that all product waste must be made unusable and unrecognizable prior to leaving a cultivation or retail facility. To do this, the cannabis must be ground and mixed with a non-consumable solid waste from an approved list, with a resulting mixture of at least 50% non-marijuana waste. But this can be a difficult or dangerous process.
Some friends of mine were working in a cultivation and shredding up the stalks and leaf, and their shredder caught on fire. So they had to push it outside, and the problem with that was that the med is not cool with the shredder being outside. So while their equipment was on fire, they got called by the Colorado Med and told they had to push it back inside.
Redfield Proctor estimates that 6 to 9.5 million pounds of soil or growing media are used each week at Colorado cannabis cultivations, most of which ends up inside sealed plastic bags in landfills, along with everyday trash. So his business works to mitigate that.
What we do is we've integrated waste management, soil delivery, and soil remediation for cannabis cultivators. Right now we're working on our non-profit program with the people from Grow Local Colorado. Essentially what we're doing, we're taking all of the leftover cocoa and root balls from this here lovely dispensary and cultivation facility. We're giving it to these guys. We're going to use it to grow crops to help the needy.
There are limited options for cultivators who choose to compost. Alpine Waste and Recycling, Colorado's largest independent waste company, has serviced cannabis clients since medical legalization in 2010. But they service only 1.4% of Colorado's current medical and recreational cultivators, and an average client only composts or recycles 18% of their waste.
If we don't resolve this issue, we've got millions of tons of organic material going into the landfills, and that's just ridiculous. It's not sustainable, it's not responsible. Bokashi is, depending on who you ask, it's either a Japanese term or a Korean term. What it means is fermented organic matter. So what we do is we take marijuana waste, we grind it up, and essentially we make sauerkraut out of it. You've got the liquid component, and we use that liquid component as a all-natural plant food. And then the solids, we convert that into recycled cannabis soils and compost. So the whole idea behind this is nothing goes to the landfill.
With the way that we mix the bokashi, using the bananas, using the apples, and using the garlic the way that we do, we get even more pest control out of it at that point too.
Out on the western slope, another cannabis cultivator eliminates waste by reincorporating organic matter right back into the soil.
Some of the sustainable practices that District 8 does is instead of throwing our soil and media and pots away, after every harvest, we keep them. So the pots that are in the facility never move. So we'll just reuse them. So once a plant is harvested, we'll dig the hole out, the old root system, and then just replant it right back in there. So over time, our hope is that we're building up the soil and we just continually build up the buffet and organic matter for the next plant. So in this pot, you see sunflowers, buckwheat, hairy vetch, and some barley, each doing very specific things. So the buckwheat helps with pulling nutrients from the soil up to the subsequent available plant. The hairy vetch fixes nitrogen and has a very extensive root system to help soil compaction. Over there we have some radish in the pots, which has a really long taproot to help defeat soil compaction, so we're able to use our soil over and over.
As one of the first cultivators to implement holistic waste practices, District 8 has had concerns about their interpretations of the MED guidelines.
The MED can't really help us out because they're not there to interpret, they're there to enforce rules, so they have to go by a rule book. So when we ask a question, they usually give us a pretty solid answer of we don't have any legal advice for you, it's here's the rule book and contact your lawyer for help.
While it is the MED's policy not to provide legal advice, they are open to stakeholder feedback. According to Shannon Gray at the MED, they are currently proposing amendments to waste rules to allow for other methods of cannabis destruction. As more cultivators turn to sustainable practices, some advocates worry that policy won't keep up with innovations in the industry.
I think the consequences of not advancing sustainable practices in cannabis are multiple. If Colorado doesn't start to address some of these issues more with more urgency, we're going to lose our sort of title as the market to copy.